Students, my name is Dr. Srinivas Goli. I am an assistant professor in Jawaharlal Nehru University. Under UGC and MHRD E-Pathshala program, we are dealing a paper on population, structure and characteristic. Under this paper, today I am dealing a module on historical perspective of feminism. The learning objective of this particular module are to deal and to understand the concept of feminism, especially to understand the concept of feminism, to learn about theoretical evolution of feminist movements, to look at the different waves of feminist movements and their geographical spread. Concept and definition of feminism is very important because unless we understand the needs and the circumstances in which women are suffering, we cannot design the policies for the future. And feminist movements helps us to understand the special needs of women. The concept, if you look at the concept of feminism, this particular concept is derived from a French term, feminism, coined by Charles Fourier, a social scientist. Feminism movements are used for strong advocacy for equal rights of the sexes. It's an intellectual commitment and a political movement to seek justice and equality for women. But feminism perspective cannot be looked alone. It's often be studied in an interdisciplinary perspective. Feminism is a broad term which used as a perspective to study different structures such as social, political and economic and cultural dimensions, and operates on how to control women and feminism is a broader term which is used as a perspective to study different structures of feminism. That is, the structures includes the social, political, economic and cultural dimensions. If you look at the feminism perspective of the concept of feminism in an interdisciplinary perspective, it can be said as feminism is grounded on the belief that women are oppressed or disadvantaged by comparison with men, and that their oppression is in some way illegitimate or unjustified. Under the umbrella of this general characterization, there are, however, many interpretations of women and their oppression, so that it is a mistake to think of feminism as a single philosophical doctrine or as implying as an agreed political program. This is specifically you need to look at the book by James Susan on the thematic of feminism published by Routledge. This has an elaborative meaning of how the feminism can be looked into with an interdisciplinary perspective. Even further, if you look into the definition, one school of thought says that gender in terms of political and social economic structure in which it is constructed and emphasize the importance of taking collective action to eradicate sexism. So feminism is seen as a concept that explains the gender in terms of political and economic structure in which it is constructed and emphasizes the importance of taking collective action to eradicate sexism in sociology as well as in the society, and to construct gender so that it is neither a harmful nor an oppressive social category. Of course, this concept of feminism can be seen in two components. One is called normative component, other is the descriptive component. Especially if you look at the normative component, it is related to how women should be or should not be viewed and treated, and is based on the concept of social justice, ethics, equality of rights. Whereas the descriptive component particularly deals related with the reality of how women are viewed and treated and how they are deprived and disadvantaged in terms of their rights and respect. What feminists do? this is important to know. I think what are the feminist movements and how they have arisen and what they will do. This is important to learn, and from this historical experience we need to also look at what are the things we need to be planned in the future. So let's look at what feminists do. The major activity of feminists is to engage in criticizing and analyzing injustice, oppression and inequality in the lives of women, leading to their domination and subordination. So this is important. What they basically highlight how women is systematically subordinated in a society. Especially if you look at the historical perspective of feminism, feminism has evolved in a different waves. It is not just come up at a point of time. It is evolved over the time. If you look at the first wave of feminism, which is roughly classified as varies between 1830 to 1920. The feminist activity and thought through writings which began in the 18th century, this first wave of feminist activities are thought to be began in the 18th century, specifically in the Enlightenment period, which is famous. French Revolution is part of it. And within the French Revolution, women raised their voices collectively against the inequality of sexes. In 1948, especially Seneca Fall Conference is especially highlights about the discrimination and inequalities that women face. It is suffrage movement, especially this movement is about the voting rights for women and women's participation in the political process. That this is one of the significant movement of first wave of feminism. What are the concerns they raised in the first wave of feminism? The important concerns raised by these feminists in the first wave of their movement is the legal issues of women's suffrage, right to vote. Especially this is the important first the assertion of women towards their equal participation, especially in the political process. Women's right to full citizenship, political representation, educational rights, and women's position as wives and mothers, which has been challenged, because the basic of women's oppression lies in the reproductive process. Because reproductive process of women is basically subordinate the women to the men. That actually people started challenging. If you look at who are those prominent people in the first wave of feminism, is Mary Astell, Stuart Mill, John Stuart Mill, Marion Royd, Annie Knight, Judith Sargent, Murray, Harriet Taylor, Jane Austen, Elizabeth Cady, or so on. There are a number of people. Susan Anthony, also an important person. Then what are the important writings of the revolutionary writings of first wave of feminism? There are a number of course writings, but here I am naming few. First one is A Serious Proposal to the Ladies, which is published in 1694. Then Same Reflection on Marriage, Same Reflections upon Marriage, this published in 1703. Thoughts on Education of Daughters, 1787. And Vindication of the Rights of Women, 1792. On the Equality of Sexes, 1790. Pride and Prejudice, 1813. Voting Rights Speech, 1848. And Subjugation of Women, 1869. Misgun, of course, this book is of course not that famous, but okay, the other books also mentioned here. You can see the slide. Then what is the criticism of first wave of feminism? The first wave of feminism led by white middle class women. So there is a classism involved in the feminism, because it is looked upon as an elite movement where the lower middle class people are not part of the movement. It ignored the intersectional inequalities, that the gender also intersects with the class and other social systems where the needs of a woman from the lower socioeconomic status are different from the needs of women of a upper socioeconomic status. Then there are a lot of excluded issues, particularly women of different colors when gender intersect with the race and other issues. Then idealization of heterosexuality, that is another important movement. That is they basically they are looked upon marriages as an heterosexual marriages rather than the same-sex marriages. Same-sex marriages have been not given enough attention into it. If you look at the second wave of feminism, which is roughly varied between which is run between the 1960 and 1975, in this particular time period, there is a other sign that just soon after the emergence of Second World War, there is a lot of movements going on in the world. The three important conferences on women in Mexico City in 1975, Copenhagen in 1980 and Nairobi in 1895 put out a lot of concerns and raised these concerns during the second wave of feminism. If you look at these concerns, the important concerns are equal wages, right at workplace, property rights, right to body, sexuality and reproductive rights, particularly contraceptive choice, abortion rights, and also racism, opposing racism, and also giving equal rights to the homosexuality along with the heterosexuality. So racism is another important, concern, which is already I told this is one of the concern, but also if you look at it separately, it is one which concern which received a lot of attention. For example, if you look at this particular slide where the women are coming forward and protesting that fearless, indomitable womanhood, a fearless, indomitable race. So they are saying that the racial discrimination particularly is intersecting with the gender has become making women more subordinate to their male counterparts. Then if you look at the national organizations across the world which have also emphasized on the women movements, Betty Friedan, a co-founder of National Organization of Women in 1960, to encourage the women to full participation in all spheres and to establish equal partnership with men. National Association for the Repeal of Abortion Laws was launched by Betty Friedan in 1969. If you look at the famous feminist in the second wave of feminism are Simone Beauvoir, Betty Friedan, and Bell Hooks, Annie Cord, Kate Millett, Jill Johnston. There are a number of Juliet Mitchell. There are other number of people who are prominently participated in the second wave of and if you look at the prominent writings of second wave of feminism, some of these are The Second Sex in 1949, The Feminine Masque, the 1969, Women, The Longer Revolution 1966, Abortion Rally Speech 1968, and Sexual Politics 1970, Lesbian Feminism in 1971, Lesbian Nation, The Feminist Solution 1973, Feminist Theory from Margins to Center in 1984. These are some of the important literature, because most of the feminist movement are literary movements which are advocated through the feminist ideologies are advocated through the literature. Here are some of the, if you look at some of the important literature what they have advocated through their books or writings is particularly look at The Second Sex, which is published in 1949. It is one is not the born but rather become a woman. So this particularly what it argues is the woman is not born but rather it becomes a woman. Woman is objectivity, denied rights to full humanity, has come to stand for nature, mystery, the non-human. What she represents is more important than what she is, what she herself experiences. In Feminine Masque, myth of happy housewife in rich household of American is challenged. So this book also advocates the plight of affluent middle class women who lived in restrictions. And the next is the third wave of feminism, which is roughly appeared in between 1990 to 2007. The third wave of feminism came up because of partial failure of second wave of feminism. Basically, they rejected some of these following important aspects. The rejection of conventional feminist labels like white focus, straight, heterosexual, middle class, class hierarchy. These are the binaries they have rejected in the third wave of feminism. And the approach is more of a radical approach rather than a liberal approach. Self-defined version of feminism based on individual concerns rather than guided by the gender stereotypes. What are the major concerns during third wave of feminism? The major concerns are women of all ages, classes, race, faith, sexual orientation, ethnicity and intersectionality of gender and social institutions are taken into consideration. Particularly, queer and black feminism is come into existence where the earlier first wave, second wave is mostly the white women who are and belong to the higher upper classes who are mainly participated in the feminist movements, but the third wave also given a chance to the lower classes and particularly the black women coming forward to participate in the feminist movement. So race and multiculturalism is coming into the limelight in the third wave of feminism. Sexuality was challenged. Homosexuality, prostitution, sex work and pornography was also taken into the feminist movements. Marital rape was challenged. Derogatory language was challenged. Everyday language of discrimination was challenged. Indecent portrayal of women is challenged in media and other cultural spheres, social spheres. Reproductive rights of women has been advocated. Right to abortion was also advocated. The third wave embraced multiplicity of identities, except the messiness of livelihood contradictions and unifying agenda. This is come up with a unifying agenda, and the students, you need to look at this book. What is the third wave of feminism? A New Directions essays by Sender. This is also published in article form, like Journal of Women in Cultural Society. So students, you need to look at the article by Sender and RC, that is what is third wave of feminism, A New Directions, published in Journal of Women, Culture and Society, published by Chicago Journals. The third wave included men as a feminist. This is a major difference between third wave feminism and other, because earlier men was not part of the feminist movements, but in the third wave feminist movement, women are along with women, men is also become part of it. Especially the feminists say, women feminists said, we want to work with men to change society and not against men, and we must join the hands with one another and with the men to create more equal society, as said by Natasha Walter in her one of her interview. Third wave of feminists, there are a number of prominent people, but to name few, the Judith Butler, Barbara Fredon, Rebecca Waka and Natasha Walter are some of the prominent third wave feminists. There are a number of other feminists you can see in this slide. There are also revolutionary writings during third wave of feminism. Most important are The Beauty Myth is one of the important book which highlighted a number of issues which is taken up in the third wave of feminism. New Feminism, published in 1998, also very important book. Female Chauvinism and Pigs, published in 2005, is also one of the important book which highlights a number of. Especially if you look at the book on Beauty Myth, it challenges the notion of physical beauty and appearance. But this book is against the criticism of self-hatred due to the poor body image and fear of aging. This challenges these myths. Then next, if you go look at the contemporary wave of feminism, that is the fourth wave of feminism, basically which combines not only feminist movements, but it also combines the social movements with the feminist movement. That we call convergence of social actions and spirituality and psychology with the feminist movement. That's the difference between the contemporary feminism to the other movements. The movements that connected through the technology, also that this inclusion of technology into feminist movement is another cutting edge in the fourth wave feminism. It combines the politics, psychology and spirituality in overreaching vision of change, as it is mentioned in Diamond. Fourth wave feminism, there are a number of concerns and there are a number of peoples who participated in. The concerns are sex positive, trans inclusion, body positive. These are the binaries which they are challenged in the fourth wave feminism. Therefore, the major concerns for the fourth wave of feminism are reproductive justice, body image, transgender concerns, sex workers concerns, rape culture, women on social media, particularly culture of sexism and misogyny as projected in everyday television, films, media and literature are challenged. The fourth wave feminist basically, like, we include the number of people, but we have mentioned in a few people. Kira Koharan are one of the important member of this fourth wave feminism. There are other people you can see on the slide. So, women's rebellion against the gender injustice in everyday life is very, very important aspect which Kira Koharan, a British journalist and editor of Guardian, in her book, she highlighted the gender injustice in everyday life. All the Rebel of Women, Rise of Fourth Wave of Feminism is the best book which is written during this particular moment. It was presented as a cases of gender rebellion initiated by women across the world against some contemporary issues such as physically and emotionally abusive relationships, sexual pressures, online abuse, body image worries, indecent representation in media, and eating disorders. Apart from this, there are a lot of in the contemporary feminism movements, there are a lot of other issues which people continue to assert that. And therefore, the feminist movements are ever changing processes. Their ideology and the issues they are taking up is changing over the time. If in the very contemporary world, females also rising, the number of the contemporary issues, including capitalist patriarchy, has been challenged in the recent times. So, students, there are a number of books you can look at it as a basic references, but the best book we can recommend is Bell Hooks' Feminist Theory for a Margin to Center is the best book you can follow, and Cochrane's All the Rebel Women, The Rise of Fourth Wave of Feminism is another important book you can look at. So but along with these feminist theories, also you should also look at the historical movements of feminism. You also look at the different theories of feminism and different waves of feminism. It's very important. Thank you.